Good morning, friends. Today we are going to continue the sums of exercise 5.1. We'll also look into some sums of exercise 5.2, and I have introduced some extra sums so that you get an understanding of the different geometrical terms. So yesterday we saw terms like square, rectangle, circle, radius, line segment. At the end of the chapter today, we will take a small summary and again understand these terms which I defined, square, rectangle, radius, circle, had Euclid's undefined terms in the beginning. What Euclid had assumed, the axioms he had taken, the postulates he had taken, the undefined terms he mentioned, from that undefined terms, we defined newer terms. So, we'll begin now. So now the fourth sum is, if a point C lies between two points A and B, such that AC equal to BC, then prove AC equal to half AB. So what is given to us here are 2 points A and B. Also C lies in between. Now C lies in between means C lies on the point joining A and B. And what is the condition given? AC. Can you measure AC? So we are given a point C. It lies between 2 points A and B such that AC equal to BC. So one point is there, A and B, the 2 points. The line segment joining points A and B. The third point C. Okay. So there are 2 points A and B. We have got a line joining A and B. We have got a point C on AB such that AC equal to BC means the length of AC equal to length of BC. It is clear in the diagram. I hope you can see that. So we are given AC equal to BC means we are already given the condition that they are equal. Now what we do, we add AC to both sides. So I hope you remember adding equals to equals are equals. Euclid's axiom. So by adding AC on both sides, we are getting AC plus AC equal to BC plus AC. Now what is AC plus AC? AC plus AC is twice AC. And what is BC plus AC? You can see you go from B to C, BC, and AC is C to A. So adding BC plus AC should give us AB. So we have twice AC equal to AB, means 2 times taking AC we get AB. If we shift 2 to the right side, we have AC equal to half AB. So here is the condition given to us and we have proved. Now how we have proved this? By using the axioms and the postulate which Euclid has given us. So Euclid had assumed some axioms that are the universal truths, some postulates which are geometrical truths, and making use of those axioms and postulates we are now proving our mathematics. So all the mathematics and all the sums that we are going to prove, remember, is based on some undefined terms which Euclid introduced. Why introduce the undefined terms? If we recall, then all the geometrical shapes have got a volume, 3 sides, length, breadth and height. Yes, they have got 3 dimensions. They are made up of surfaces. Surfaces have 2 dimensions. Yes, the borders of the surface are edges which has got 1 dimension and 2 endpoints, and every point on that line segment or that edge is also undefined point, undefined term called a point. Sorry. So the undefined terms are point, line, surface. Yes, we'll recall once at the end of the slide. But now what are we actually doing? We are making use of those axioms and postulates and proving further things in the way of measurement. Let us move to the next sum. Now in the question 4, the one we did previously, point C is called a midpoint. Now what is the meaning of the word midpoint C? Now we are introducing one more term here, the term midpoint. Midpoint means a point which lies exactly in the middle. So C lies exactly in the middle of A and B, means the C is in the middle, the distance of C from A and the distance of C from B is equal, hence it is the midpoint. Now what are we to prove? We have to prove every line segment has one and only one midpoint. Means one line segment cannot have more than one midpoint. So again we are proving something based on what we did earlier. So now we are going to prove this by a method called method of contradiction. So mathematics has its own tools to explain things. Here we are going to introduce a method called method of contradiction. So what is the contradiction here? We know C lies between 2 points A and B. This was given in the previous sum, the data, the point A, the point B, the point C, and this time we have a fourth point. We are contradicting. Which is this fourth point? We call it C prime. So we are assuming here something. Let us see what happens. What we are assuming here, that this line segment AB has got two midpoints. Yes, one midpoint is C and another midpoint is C prime. So if C is the midpoint, then AC equal to BC, it is given to us. But if C prime is the midpoint, then AC prime equal to BC prime. So we have assumed let there be two midpoints, C and C prime. Okay. Now if C is the midpoint, then AC equal to half AB, we proved previously. If C prime is the midpoint, then AC prime is equal to half AB also, because C prime is the midpoint. Now you look here, when things are equal, yes, then it is equal to the third also. So half AB equal to AC and half AB is also equal to AC prime. So we have AC equal to AC prime. Means the point C and the point C prime are at the same distance from A. But that is only possible when C and C prime coincide. Means there are no 2 points. C prime is actually the point C itself. So it shows us that every line segment can have only one and one midpoint. Again, what is midpoint? Midpoint is the point which lies exactly in the middle of the two given points. So I hope now that you have understood the concept of midpoint. Now remember, only a line segment, that is a terminated line. What is a terminated line? We did yesterday. A line which starts at A and ends at B, or say starts at B and ends at A, means it is starting and ending with two fixed points, is a terminated line. So a terminated line can have a midpoint. Remember, a line which is infinitely going in both directions will not have a midpoint. A ray will also not have a midpoint because it is infinite. So you need to remember these things. Okay, now we have given a figure here. So let us see the figure. Okay, so this is the figure. In this figure we have given AC equal to BD. Look at the diagram carefully. There is a line segment AB with two endpoints. There are 2 points B and C on it. Now if you see this, there are endpoints given. So we can actually measure the length. We can measure AB, we can measure AC, we can measure AD, we can measure BC, we can measure BD, and we can measure CD also. So all this can be measured. We are given AC equal to BD and we have to prove AB equal to CD. So how will we prove? Okay, what is clear from the diagram now? Look at AC. What is AC? AC is AB plus BC. Okay, I hope you understand this. AC equal to AB, so going from A to B and B to C gives us AC, and BD equal to BC plus CD. Now we are given AC equal to BD, so putting down the values given, what we will get? AB plus BC equal to BC plus CD. Okay, so they both are equal. Now we subtract BC from both sides, because subtracting equals from equals gives us equals. So subtracting BC from both sides, what will we do now? This BC gets cut. BC minus BC gets cut. So this BC minus BC gets cut. So what are we left with? AB equal to CD, and hence we have proved that if AC equal to BD in the figure, then AB equal to CD. So we are proving the sums now, we are finding the answers based on the data given to us. Okay. Now this is axiom 5 in the list of Euclid's axioms and considered to be a universal truth. What is the statement? You can see in the figure. Just for the example, we have taken PQ equal to 8 centimeter. PQ is 8 centimeter and we have taken a point R on PQ such that PR is 5 centimeter. So what you can see here, PQ is 8 centimeter. So if the point R lies between P and Q, then PR should always be smaller than PQ. If the point R lies outside P and Q, then PR will be greater than PQ. But what is axiom 5? Axiom 5 says the whole is always greater than the part. Yes, the whole is always greater than the part. So here in our line segment, PQ is the whole thing and PR is a part. The part is always smaller than the whole, or the whole is always bigger than the part. So PQ is here the whole thing. If you make a part of it, say PR, PR will always be smaller than the whole thing. So this is a universal truth and we can never deny this fact. Okay. Now there is one more question. Does Euclid's fifth postulate imply the existence of parallel lines? Explain. Now to get the concept of parallel lines, we have to first see what is Euclid's fifth postulate. What was the postulate? When a line, say our line L, this is our line L, line falling on two lines. Say the two lines are M and N. So our line L is falling on two lines M and N. Now we saw there were four interior angles. So let us call this angle 1 and let us call this angle 2. Now when we add 1 and 2, angle 1 and angle 2, this was angle 1 and this is angle 2. When you will add 1 and 2, it gives you angle more than 180. Now because it gives you more than 180, the lines will never meet on this side. But if you add this angle, say angle 3 and angle 4. If you add 3 and 4, then the sum of these angles is less than 180, which will mean when you extend these lines further, they will meet on this side. So that was Euclid's fifth postulate. Okay, if you modify it and see the interior angle, this is 90 and this is 90. So if the sum of interior angles is 180, then the lines will never meet and hence they will be parallel. So what did Euclid say? Adding the internal angles on the same side, 1 and 2, adding on the same side, they are either more than 180 or less than 180. On the side they are more than 180, they will never meet. On the side they are less than 180, they will meet. But what if it is exactly 180? If it is exactly 180, they will never meet, and such lines are called parallel lines. So Euclid's fifth postulate exactly implies the existence of parallel lines. Now we are going to a mathematical sum. An angle is 26 degrees more than its complement. What is the measure? Now comes the word complement. So again there is a mathematical meaning here. Which angles are complementary angles? Now we have to also define what an angle is. We have not done so far. So roughly, when I have got two rays, ray 1 and ray 2, when two rays has got a common vertex, yes, two rays has got a common vertex, means a common end point, then this is the angle between them. So now we see how we get angles. we get angles from rays. And what was ray? Ray was an undefined term. But anyway, for this sum I'll tell you, if we have two angles, so what are complementary angles? When the sum of two angles is 90, then the angles are called complementary angles. So here we are given to find an angle. Let us say the angle be x. So one angle is x, and what is the another angle? It's 26 more than its complement. Now what is the complement of x? The complement of x is 90 minus x. Why it is 90 minus x? It is because complementary angles, when two angles are added, the sum should be 90. Now this angle x is greater than this angle by 26. So according to the statement, let our angle be x. Then angle x is 26 more than the complement 90 plus x. So opening the bracket, we get x equal to 116 minus x. This minus x which goes to the left side becomes plus x. So x plus x equal to 116. 2x equal to 116 because x plus x is 2x. 2x equal to 116. So x is equal to 116 upon 2 and x is equal to 58 degree. So now see, what is the complement of 26? So sorry, our angle is x. So angle x is 58. Okay, our angle is 58. So what is its complement? What is 90 minus 58? 90 minus 58 is 32. And 58 is 26 more than 32 because 32 plus 26 will give us 58. Next sum now. Again, B is a point which lies on AC. So we have got a line segment AC. We have got a point B which lies on AC. The measure of AB is now given x plus 3, BC is 2x, and AC is 4x minus 5. We have to find the value of x. Now what you can find from the figure we did previously, AB plus BC should give us AC. So AC is AB plus BC. Now put down the values. AC is 4x minus 5, AB is x, and BC is 3 plus 2x. On solving we get 4x minus 5 equal to 3x. How 3x? X plus 2x, 3x plus 3. Now we take the 3x on the left side and minus 5 on the right side and change the signs. So 4x minus 3x equal to 3 plus 5 and hence x is equal to 8. So when such conditions are given to us, we can find the unknown number. Now in this figure, you see a triangle. We are given AB equal to BC. So look at this, AB is equal to BC and BX equal to BY, and we have to show AX equal to CY. So first let us see what is given to us. AB equal to BC is equation number 1. BX equal to BY is equation number 2. Okay. Now we are subtracting equation 2 from equation 1. Why? Because subtracting equals from equals are equal. So we can subtract equation 2 from equation 1 and still they will remain equal. So we got AB minus BX subtracting the left side equal to BC minus BY subtracting the right side. Now look at the diagram. From AB, if you remove the BX, what remains? Yes, AX remains. So AB minus BX gives us AX. Similarly, BC minus BY should give us CY, and hence we proved AX equal to CY. So here again the conditions were given that AB equal to BC, BX equal to BY, then we could show that AX equal to CY. Now again we come to one sum. There is a statement given to us, an equilateral triangle. Now you see what is an equilateral triangle. So here again we have to define triangles. Equilateral. So what is special about an equilateral triangle? We'll see to that later on, but here we are given an equilateral triangle is a polygon made up of three line segments, out of which two line segments are equal to the third one and all its angles are 60 degree. So for this mathematical definition, you see below what we have got. We should know what a polygon is. A polygon is a closed figure made of three or more line segments. So if there are three line segments, it's a triangle. If there are four line segments, it's a quadrilateral. And in quadrilaterals, we have a square, a rectangle, a parallelogram, a rhombus, a kite, a trapezium. If there are five line segments, it's called a polygon. Six is called a hexagon. Seven is called a heptagon, and so on. We can define this all because we have defined, okay, we can define polygon based on line segment. Now how did we define line segment? It is a part of a line with two endpoints, but the term line is undefined. Euclid has not defined what is a line. He said it is a breadthless length. Point is also undefined. It is non-dimensional, no dimension. Now what is angle we saw before? An angle formed by two rays with a common initial point. And what is the acute angle? An angle whose measure is between 0 degree and 90 degree. So you can see in the list here, there are some terms which are defined, but those terms are defined based on our undefined terms. The first terms which were undefined. So this is what is based. Now what we have to check here, we have to see what is an equilateral triangle. So what you can see here, you have to draw an equilateral triangle. Now there are steps of construction, but an equilateral triangle is a polygon made of three line segments. So three line segments make a triangle, and in a triangle, when all the three sides are equal, it is called the equilateral triangle. If you measure each angle, then each angle will be exactly 60 degree. So this can be verified by measurement. But since we talked of equilateral triangle, which are the other triangles? So in a triangle when all three sides are equal, it's called the equilateral triangle. If two sides of a triangle are equal and third side is not equal, it is called an isosceles triangle. And a triangle whose none of the sides are equal is called a scalene triangle. So here we are learning three more words: equilateral, isosceles, scalene. Remember, equilateral, isosceles and scalene. Equilateral means all three sides are equal. So when I use the word equilateral triangle, imagine all the three sides are equal. If I say isosceles triangle, then any two sides of the triangle are equal. And when I say a scalene triangle, means none of the sides are equal. So this is a mathematical vocabulary again. It is based on the undefined terms of Euclid. Okay. So now I take you back to the thing we did before in the second lecture. Again, these are the point, line, the ends of a line, straight line, surface, edges and plane surface. Remember this? These were undefined terms, but now based on this undefined terms, we are defining newer terms. We said what is a square? A square has all the four sides equal, means there is a condition when all four sides are equal and each angle is 90 degree, it is a square. If only four sides are equal, it is a rhombus. Rectangle, the opposite sides are equal and every angle is 90 degree. So what have you seen here? Now in mathematics we are introducing angles, different type of angles, triangles, different types of triangles, triangle based on the sides, triangles based on the angles. In the angles we saw acute angle, right angle, obtuse angle. So we are defining terms now, but remember it all started from this undefined terms. So we are revising a geometry which you did in the previous standards, but what are you seeing now? We are learning what is the basis of geometry, from where geometry started. So Euclid gave some undefined terms, and based on those undefined terms and his axioms and his postulate, he has built the geometry, and now we are proving the theorems and the further things. So it is all based on what? The assumptions, the undefined terms. Now all the definitions are based on undefined terms and all the theorems are proved by the existing axioms and postulates. So I hope this lesson is clear to you. Revise this lesson very nicely. Now we'll start the lesson number 6 of geometry, lines and angles. So now we'll see different type of lines. When lines intersect, they give rise to angles. What type of angles? So make a mathematical vocabulary and learn to imagine. Whenever I use a mathematical term, you should instantly have a picture in your mind. So when I say parallel lines, you should be able to imagine parallel lines. When I say perpendicular lines, you should be able to imagine perpendicular lines. Okay, so here we end with the first chapter, and now try the exercise in the textbook, in the exemplar. If you got any doubt, WhatsApp the doubt to me and I will solve it in the next lecture. Thank you.